There are times in history when the vaults of heaven begin to shake, not from the demands of man, but from the timing of God. We stand on the edge of such a moment, not a season of mere earthly riches, but a divine transfer, a release ordained by the King of Kings. Kingdom wealth is about to pour in, not to satisfy selfish appetites, but to awaken righteous purpose. It is not gold for gold's sake, but gold for the glory of the one who holds all things together. The heavens have opened, not because we earned it, but because the time has come. A time when those with clean hands and pure hearts will receive what has been withheld for such a time as this. This wealth is not merely material. It is strategic. It carries assignment. It is wrapped in wisdom, carried by obedience, and directed by heaven's blueprint. Those who receive it must not waste it on vanity, but use it to build, to restore, to heal, to plant what cannot be uprooted. Kingdom wealth is the resource of heaven meeting the responsibility of earth. It is the fuel for vision, the answer to the cry of the oppressed, and the tool to repair ancient ruins. But it can only be trusted to those who have passed through fire and still chosen humility. This is not for the proud, nor for the greedy. This is for those who have sown in tears and not given up when all seemed lost. Heaven does not release without reason. This wealth is not an accident. It is a divine answer. It is provision for vision that is bigger than man's mind can manage. The ones who will carry this wealth are not necessarily the ones with loud voices or polished appearances, but those with quiet obedience and deep wells of faith. They've been hidden, not forgotten. They've been prepared, not denied. Their hearts have been refined in lack so they could remain pure in abundance. And now, heaven is saying, it is time. But let us be clear, this outpouring is not for the glorification of man. It is not a celebration of earthly status. It is a weapon in the hands of the faithful, a river of resources flowing toward the building of the kingdom. Ministries will be funded, families will be restored, nations will be impacted, the poor will be fed, the gospel will be preached. And all of it will point back to the source, not the steward. The wealth of the wicked has been stored up for the righteous, and the righteous are now rising, not with arrogance, but with authority. To those who feel overlooked, abandoned, disqualified, hear this: your wait was not in vain. Every moment of sacrifice, every step of faith, every season of wilderness was not to destroy you, but to shape you into someone who can carry what others would have corrupted. You were not delayed, you were being developed. And now, as the heavens release what they have stored, it is not falling into empty hands, but into hands ready to build what the world cannot tear down. So rise, not with entitlement, but with expectation. Lift your eyes, not to chase treasure, but to receive assignment. Prepare your hands, not to grasp, but to give. For kingdom wealth is coming, and with it comes responsibility, opportunity, and divine influence. Heaven has released it, not because we demanded it, but because God has deemed us ready. Steward it well. Spend it wisely. Sow it boldly. Sow it boldly. For this is not the end of a drought. It is the beginning of a harvest. Kingdom wealth is a divine assignment, not a personal possession. To understand this truth is to recognize the very heart of God in all He gives. In a world that glorifies accumulation and prizes ownership, the soul trained by heaven must relearn what it means to receive. The wealth that flows from the throne of God is never random and never selfish. It is strategic, purposeful, and deeply sacred. It is not placed into the hands of those who only desire more for themselves, but rather into the hearts of those who understand that every blessing carries a burden of responsibility. This principle is foundational to how the kingdom of God operates, and yet it is so easily overlooked by those who seek instant reward or visible success. The process of preparation is rarely glamorous. It is filled with long stretches of silence, private struggles, and countless decisions to keep going when no one is watching. But these are the moments that heaven weighs most heavily. It is not the public platform that determines whether a soul is ready to carry kingdom wealth. It is the quiet places, the lonely paths, the obscure tests of character and trust. The hidden season is not punishment. It is training. It is in this space, away from applause and affirmation, that God forms the kind of person who can carry what others would fumble. Faithfulness in hidden seasons means saying yes to God when the rewards are not immediate. It means obeying Him when nothing makes sense, giving when you have little, and trusting when the outcome seems uncertain. It is waking up each day and showing up to what He has placed in your hands, however small or unnoticed it may seem. It is choosing to believe that your labor is not in vain, even when you feel forgotten. The hidden place is where motives are revealed and refined. God uses this time to separate ambition from assignment, impulse from integrity, and emotion from obedience. In this refining process, a person becomes trustworthy, not just with words, but with actions. And it is only when someone proves faithful in what is small and unseen that God begins to release what is great and influential. Heaven doesn't rush the release. Divine timing is not governed by human calendars. God is more interested in who you are becoming than in what you are doing. That is why the hidden season is often prolonged, not to discourage you, but to protect the blessing. The longer you walk in faithfulness when no one else understands or applauds, the deeper your roots grow. And God never builds high until He has first dug deep. To carry abundance without being destroyed by it requires depth of character, clarity of vision, and purity of heart. These are not developed overnight. They are developed in the hidden place, through perseverance, through prayer, and through total dependence on the voice of God. When the time of release comes, it is often sudden in appearance, but not in preparation. What seems like an overnight blessing is actually the fruit of years of hidden obedience. God rewards faithfulness, not because we earn His love is already ours, but because faithfulness proves we can handle what He longs to give. Kingdom wealth is powerful. It can either build what is eternal or inflate what is ego-driven. That is why God does not pour it into immature hands. He waits, He watches, and when He sees a soul who has remained faithful with little, He knows He can trust them with much. It is also in the hidden seasons that we learn to rely on God for everything. When doors are closed and resources are limited, we are forced to listen more carefully, to pray more fervently, and to trust more completely. We learn that provision comes not from the hands of man, but from the heart of God. This dependence becomes the foundation upon which future abundance will rest, because when the blessing does come, the faithful one will not boast in their own wisdom or strength. They will remember the nights they wept in silence, the prayers that were whispered in brokenness, the promises they clung to when everything said to give up. And with every blessing they receive, their hearts will bend in gratitude, not pride. Those who have proven faithful in hidden seasons carry something rare, authentic authority. They don't lead with entitlement, they lead with humility. They don't hoard, they give. They don't build for self, they build for others. And this is why heaven chooses them. Not because they shouted the loudest, but because they listened the longest. Not because they performed, but because they persevered. When heaven releases abundance, it looks for the ones who have already shown that their heart belongs to God and not to the gift. These are the ones who will not be corrupted by the blessing, but who will let the blessing be a conduit for healing, building, restoring, and glorifying the King who trusted them in the dark. Kingdom wealth flows to the obedient, not merely the ambitious. This is a reality that cuts through the illusions often spun by the world, where success seems to come to those who chase it the hardest. Ambition, while not inherently wrong, becomes dangerous when it detaches itself from obedience. In the kingdom of God, it is not the person who runs the fastest toward their goals who inherits divine provision. It is the one who walks faithfully in step with the voice of God. Obedience is not about achieving one's own desires. It is about yielding to the will of the Father, even when it is uncomfortable, unclear, or uncelebrated. It is about placing God's instruction above personal aspiration, and trusting that His plan for your life will always exceed anything your own ambition could ever produce. There is a subtle but vital difference between ambition and obedience. Ambition asks, how can I get more? While obedience asks, Lord, what would you have me do? Ambition often seeks to elevate self, to be seen, to accomplish. But obedience is content with being hidden if it means staying true to God's design. Obedience is not passive. It is deeply active. It requires courage, discipline, and an inner strength that refuses to move ahead of God's timing. The obedient soul does not chase wealth, they chase wisdom. They do not strive for platforms. They seek purpose, and in doing so, they align themselves with the very flow of heaven's resources. For God does not invest in rebellion, nor does he bless paths he has not paved. The wealth of the kingdom is reserved for those who walk in the ways of the King. Obedience can sometimes look like delay. It may involve walking away from opportunities that appear profitable, simply because God did not authorize them. It may mean saying no to what others would label a once-in-a-lifetime offer. Obedience is often costly, but its reward is always richer than the price. The one who chooses obedience over ambition may be misunderstood, criticized, or even mocked. But heaven sees, and keeps records. God takes note of those who would rather follow his whisper than chase their own dreams. These are the souls that are being prepared to receive kingdom wealth, not because they demanded it, but because they proved they could be trusted with it. Ambition builds fast and burns out quickly. Obedience builds slow, but what it builds lasts for generations. Und the wealth that comes from obedience is enduring, purposeful, and protected by God himself. It does not come with sorrow, nor does it collapse under pressure. It is grounded in divine authority. The obedient are not interested in looking successful. They are committed to being faithful. They understand that they are not called to impress, but to impact. And so, when heaven begins to pour out blessing, it looks for those whose hearts have been tested in obedience. Those who did what God asked, even when it cost them comfort. Those who stayed when they wanted to run, who gave when they had little, who forgave when it was hard, and who remained steady in the fire of waiting. When kingdom wealth arrives, the obedient do not point to their effort as the cause. They point to their surrender. They know it was not their striving that produced the harvest. It was their submission to the divine gardener. They do not boast in their plans. They marvel at God's faithfulness. Their lives become a living testament that obedience is the true path to abundance, and that in God's economy, the greatest riches are not acquired through hustle, but through holiness. They carry their wealth lightly, using it not to elevate themselves, but to serve others, to answer prayers, and to fund the missions that burn on God's heart. God is not looking for the most talented, the most persuasive, or the most connected. He is looking for the most obedient. For it is in obedience that he finds a vessel he can fill, without risk of it leaking through pride, or being shattered by greed. He looks for those who will move when he says move, wait when he says wait, and give when he says give. Kingdom wealth is too precious to be poured into unyielded lives. It is reserved for those who have allowed obedience to become their lifestyle, not their occasional response. And in this posture of obedience, heaven opens its storehouses and entrusts its treasures, not to satisfy ambition, but to accomplish divine assignment. When heaven releases kingdom wealth, it is never just for personal luxury, but for divine assignment. This truth challenges the common human perception that wealth exists for the sake of comfort, status, or indulgence. In the realm of the kingdom, everything that is given carries purpose. God does not bless merely to impress. He blesses to fulfill his plan on earth through willing vessels. Those who are entrusted with abundance are not simply being rewarded, they are being recruited. They are called into a sacred stewardship, a responsibility to build, to heal, to restore, and to serve. Kingdom wealth is not a trophy, it is a tool. It is not an endpoint. It is a beginning of a greater work that aligns with the heartbeat of heaven. The blessings of heaven are precise and intentional. They come not according to human dreams, but according to divine design. When God entrusts someone with wealth, he does so because he sees in them a heart that will honor his assignment. He looks not at how much they can accumulate, but how much they are willing to distribute in alignment with his will. This wealth might take the form of finances, but it may also appear in opportunities, influence, wisdom, or resources. Whatever form it takes, the purpose remains the same: to advance the kingdom of God on earth. It is meant to feed the hungry, clothe the poor, build schools, support missions, rescue the oppressed, and raise up new leaders who will carry the message of truth and love into a dark and broken world. Those who carry kingdom wealth must never lose sight of why they have it. They are not owners, they are stewards. They are not kings, they are servants. Their role is not to bask in the blessing, but to break it like bread and distribute it to those in need. This does not mean that God is against enjoyment or rest. He delights in seeing his children joyful. But there is a difference between enjoying a gift and hoarding it. Kingdom wealth is not to be held with tight fists, but with open hands. The true measure of someone's readiness to carry abundance is not their capacity to receive, but their willingness to release. God gives wealth according to the capacity to carry it with integrity. If a blessing will compromise your calling, delay your obedience, or inflate your pride, then it is not a gift, it is a threat. That is why God often waits before releasing certain levels of abundance. He waits until the heart is aligned with the mission, until the soul is fully surrendered, until the person has proven that their greatest joy is not in what they receive, but in what they give. Kingdom wealth flows most freely through those who have already chosen to live for something greater than themselves. They understand that wealth is only holy when it is submitted to holy purposes. The world may praise the rich, but heaven watches how the rich respond to the call of God. When the Spirit whispers a give, do they obey? When a need arises, do they answer? When a door opens to bless someone else, do they step through it? These are the questions that matter in the kingdom. Because divine assignment is always wrapped in real people, real pain, and real redemption. Wealth that is used selfishly will eventually rot, but wealth that is sown into eternity will bear fruit that never fades. Those who embrace the call to steward kingdom wealth are marked by unusual generosity, not just in monetary giving, but in time, in love, in presence, in wisdom. They see every resource as a seed that can be planted to bring transformation. They are builders, not collectors. Their hearts are not entangled in possessions, but ignited by purpose. And because of this, God continues to pour into them, not because he favors them above others, but because they have become faithful channels of his goodness. Heaven's economy operates differently than the world's. It multiplies what is given, honors what is surrendered, and breathes on what is aligned with heaven's will. Those who understand that kingdom wealth is tied to divine assignment become unstoppable forces of change. They move with clarity, purpose, and compassion. They build hospitals, start ministries, pay off debts, rescue the forgotten, and fund the dreams that God has hidden in the hearts of others. They carry the burden and the beauty of the blessing. They are not consumed by what they have, they are driven by what they're called to do. And because of that, the world will feel the impact of their obedience, their generosity, and their unwavering commitment to carry out the assignment that heaven has placed in their hands. True kingdom prosperity is not measured by possessions, but by purpose fulfilled. This concept runs counter to much of the world's ideology, where accumulation is seen as the highest evidence of success. But in the kingdom of God, the measure is not in what a person owns, but in what a person accomplishes through obedience, service, and divine alignment. Prosperity, in its truest and most eternal form, is the ability to carry out God's purpose for one's life with excellence, faithfulness, and impact. The mansion, the bank account, the accolades, these are not the indicators of a prosperous life in the eyes of heaven. Rather, prosperity is when someone walks in the calling they were born for, doing it with integrity, joy, and unwavering commitment to God's will. In this light, we begin to see how narrow the world's definition of success is. The world counts possessions. God counts obedience. The world sees trophies. God sees testimony. The world sees fame. God sees faithfulness. Prosperity is not simply having more. It's being able to accomplish what God placed in you without lack, without hindrance, and without compromise. It is about movement in the right direction, not accumulation in the wrong one. Many people have much, but are far from fulfilled because they are not walking in their purpose. Their wealth weighs them down instead of propelling them forward. But those who live for divine purpose understand that every resource, every opportunity, and every breath is meant to serve something eternal. Kingdom prosperity empowers you to say yes to God's assignments without hesitation. It frees you from bondage to debt, insecurity, so that you can build what He's placed in your heart. It enables you to respond to the needs of others without anxiety. It gives you margin, clarity, and capacity to sow into what matters. And that's the point, not that you'd build your own kingdom, but that you'd advance His. Prosperity becomes dangerous only when it detaches from purpose, but when wealth is tethered to heaven's vision, it becomes holy, powerful, and unstoppable. You can always tell when someone understands this, because they are not greedy, they are generous. They are not distracted, they are driven. They are not self-centered, they are mission-focused. And as a result, they multiply not just money, but meaning. It's also important to realize that prosperity is not one size fits all. For one, fulfilling their purpose may require millions. For another, it may require only a small, quiet life filled with love and impact. God's measure is not in quantity but in alignment. What matters is whether you are walking in your unique calling with everything you've been given. For some, that means funding ministries across the globe. For others, it means mentoring the brokenhearted in their local community. Prosperity is not a destination. It's a condition of being in step with your assignment, resourced by heaven to complete it without excuse. And often, this prosperity begins not with increase but with clarity. Clarity of who you are, why you're here, and what God has asked you to do. This is why many who seem ordinary in the world's eyes are actually extraordinary in the kingdom. They may not drive luxury cars or live in mansions, but they are rich in what matters. They are fulfilling their assignment with love, courage, and joy. Their lives bear fruit that eternity will celebrate, even if earth overlooks it. And then there are others who have been given great material wealth, not to flaunt, but to fund. Their prosperity is tied to their purpose, and because they have not divorced the two, they live impactful, expansive lives that bless multitudes. When purpose is fulfilled, heaven rejoices. And that is the ultimate mark of prosperity, not applause from men, but approval from God. When you meet Him face to face, He won't ask how much you owned, but whether you stewarded what He gave. He will not be impressed by what you built for yourself, but He will honor what you built for His glory. So, kingdom prosperity is an invitation to live differently, to dream with God, and to give without fear. It is a life where you lack nothing, not because you hoard everything, but because you need only what is necessary to finish your race well. Purpose is the true treasure, and when you live for it, you are already rich in the ways that matter most. When the floodgates of kingdom wealth open, it demands both spiritual discernment and practical preparation. Blessings do not descend from heaven arbitrarily or without purpose. They come with timing, with weight, and with specific assignments attached. The outpouring of kingdom wealth is not just a moment to celebrate. It is a moment to be ready. It is not simply about receiving, but about how to receive well. God does not pour new wine into old wineskins. If a heart is unprepared, the blessing can become a burden. Therefore, when heaven signals the release of its provision, the wise do not rejoice prematurely. They prepare their hearts, their hands, their habits, and their houses to carry what is coming. Discernment becomes essential because not every opportunity is from God. When abundance increases, so do distractions, so do temptations, and so do impostors. The soul must be trained to recognize what is divine and what is deceptive. It is easy to mislabel worldly gain as divine increase, but the fruit will always reveal the root. Wealth from the kingdom brings peace, clarity, and purpose. It never demands that you compromise your values, your calling, or your character. Discernment helps you to say no to what may be profitable, but not purposeful. Discernment teaches you to identify when to move and when to wait, when to sow and when to store, when to speak and when to be silent. In seasons of overflow, discernment becomes a shield, guarding your soul from corruption. Preparation, on the other hand, is what gives structure to the blessing. A person who prays for rain must also dig trenches. A person expecting the harvest must build barns. God often delays increase not because he is unwilling to bless, but because the vessel is unfit to carry it. To prepare for kingdom wealth means to develop a mindset that can handle both the blessing and the responsibility. It means creating systems of generosity, stewardship, and integrity before the money arrives. It means healing from past traumas of lack so that you do not become enslaved to fear or greed when increase comes. It means building a community around you who can keep you accountable, wise counsel who can remind you why you started, and whose voices carry the authority to challenge you if your heart begins to drift. It also means embracing discipline, because abundance often brings freedom, and freedom without discipline becomes chaos. The mature do not allow wealth to dictate their values. They allow their values to govern how they use their wealth. In the absence of preparation, people tend to mismanage divine provision. They waste time, lose focus, indulge in excess, and forget the mission. But those who are prepared understand that the more God places in their hands, the more he is trusting them to act on his behalf. Preparation is not about trying to be perfect. It is about being positioned. Positioned in faith, positioned in wisdom, and positioned in humility. It is also crucial to prepare emotionally and spiritually for the responsibility that comes with kingdom wealth. Elevation can isolate. Increase can attract the wrong attention. The demands may grow heavier. The expectations may rise. And if your identity is still attached to what you have instead of who you serve, you will begin to lose sight of the one who gave it. That is why character must be deeper than charisma, and obedience must be stronger than desire. You prepare by staying rooted in the Word, grounded in prayer, and submitted to God's voice, no matter how loud the world becomes. For this, when the Spirit leads, the prepared heart responds, not with pride, but with worship. Ultimately, preparation is an act of faith. It is building for what you haven't yet seen because you believe that God is true to his word. It is stretching out the nets before the fish appear, laying the foundation before the rain falls, and moving in step with heaven even when nothing in the natural yet confirmed. And when the wealth comes, and it will, those who are both discerning and prepared will not just receive it, they will multiply it. They will not just be blessed, they will become a blessing. The world will not just see wealth. It will see the wisdom, the peace, the justice, and the beauty of heaven flowing through people who are ready, willing, and faithful. That is the essence of kingdom wealth, not just to enrich a life, but to transform the world through lives that have been transformed.